Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Yakuza Fiancé Season 1, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up exactly where the last episode left off. It kind of feels like Kirishima might be more of an enigma to Shoma than he is to Yoshino, because he's a nut that like neither one of them can crack, but he kind of doesn't make any sense at all, because it's kind of the thing. I think the title episode is like, is he smart or is he stupid? I think it's something like that. But either way, he's here because he's like, oh, like I came to pick up Yoshino, it's pretty late, and I came to pick her up, and it's like Kirishima says like he knows what the circumstances are. He's like, I know her grandfather sent her here, without really any intentions of actually like me and Yoshino actually getting married. He's like, the fact of the matter is, he was kind of bringing up the whole point of like, because he's like, I know you're worried about her because she could play a role in all of this, the Yakuza wars, being like, she can be the reason stuff pops off, or she could be the deterrent. But he's like, that's not really the role she's playing, and that's not the role I need her for. He's like, just basically like, oh, I'm in love with her, but also like her grandfather sent her here because he's trying to manipulate me for some reason, for personal reasons, and we don't know what those reasons is. I don't know if Kirishima does know and he's not saying, or he's trying to figure it out himself. But he's like, I'm perfectly fine with that because I'm going to be using him in the same way. So he's using me and I'm going to be using him, so it's kind of a win-win all across the board. So, but obviously none of that caught Shomo off guard, because I don't know if Shomo figured there was more to it, because I don't think he knows. I don't remember if he knows about the conversation Yoshino had with her grandfather about him being like, no, because she told him last episode, didn't she? Like, right, my grandfather said like fall in love with him and then dump him. I don't remember. Like, Shomo might not know that. I can't remember if she told him that or not. But so Shomo might think this is legitimate, but he just wants to protect Yoshino, and so he wants to do kind of what's best for her and by her, to the point he was like, you know what, when she showed up, it's like, yo, we're going back to Osaka right now. I'll deal with the boss myself. I'll deal with your grandfather myself, with whatever the fallout this might be. But Kirishima's like, nah, I love her so much and she's gonna stay here. She found out like, oh my god, you cloned my phone and were able to track me. There's this look on Shomo's face when she said that, where he was almost like, is that how he found her, or are there other means? Because once again, she thought she figured it out beforehand of how he was tracking her. But I'm like, he probably has like a million different means of tracking you. He's creative and resourceful enough, so it could be a multitude of things. I mean, for one, he could be, because I think that's also something he brought up to Shomo, because like Shomo was like, oh, you're a stalker. He's like, oh, that means I followed you guys and you didn't see me at all. So what does that say about you? It's like, that's the thing. He could have been stalking you an entire day and you just, neither one of you knew, because he's just that good. I mean, we kind of get that to some extent later on when Shomo is going back to Osaka at the train station, and neither one of them was aware that Kirishima followed them. Now the question is, did he follow her there, or did he already know she was going to come meet Shomo and knew exactly where he was? Maybe he always kept tabs on him to see what train station he was going to leave from. Maybe it's a very specific one of like, I know he's going to be here, like, so he was already prepped and ready before Yoshino even got there, because she never bothered to check. She's like, I think he's home, so he could have already left and already been at the train station waiting for them to meet up. But either way, there was this interesting point in the conversation too, where it was kind of like a whole point of contention about, what was it, that Shoma was an outsider, but that kind of made Yoshino snap, and she's like, whoa, he's not the outsider, he's family. If anyone's the outsider here, it's you. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I guess I went too far that time. Because I think that's where it started really irking his nerves, where it's just kind of like, okay, you're being very defensive of him, you do care about him. So I think that's what rubbed him the wrong way, like at the train station. And then later on, when they're on the train going to school together, to pack train, they're pretty close. And she talks about the fact is, she never wanted people to know that she doesn't ride the train because she's like, they'll probably think I'm spoiled or something like that. But it's like, I would always get driven around in the car, but I wouldn't want anyone to know about it. So I'd have the car pick me up or drop me off a little ways away so no one would see the car. She's like, except for like one day in middle school. It might have been her, I can't remember. She said like her last year in middle school, and it was something related to Shoma. And then in that moment, you saw that crazy look on Kirishima's face. And she was like, right. She thought that was about her. She's like, is that feeling from the first episode? Like, is he trying to kill me? Like, what's his whole deal? And it's like when he's outside and sees her in her classroom, and she's like, oh, he looked directly at me. Because she's thinking like, oh my God, have we flipped the whole situation again? Because she's even looking up online, like, how do you keep your boyfriend's interest? And it's like, don't be so much of a burden, and make sure you talk to other male classmates, and that's how you kind of keep your SO's interest. And she's like, well, that didn't help at all. But it's like she's doing all this stuff because she's thinking like, oh my God, is he about to get bored of me again? Now I got to deal with like him, you know, he was threatening to kill me or whore me out last time. So once again, she's still she kind of feels like every time there's a step forward to her potentially understanding him or having a better grasp of the situation, it ends up being a free-for-all, and she's just kind of like, I have no idea what to really make of this. And so her and Kirishima had this conversation where he kind of admits, she's like, are you jealous? He was like, I actually never considered that. Maybe I am. And it's just like, maybe there is a level of jealousy, because it's like, is his feelings for her legitimate? It's so hard to tell, because it's like, my point I brought up in the previous episode, I don't remember if it was episode 2 or 3, it's like, maybe he actually doesn't know what love actually is. That's a thing in itself. But he ends up talking about how he wants to approach things going forward. It's kind of like, she's like, yeah, what if I'm going out with Shoma or whatever? And it's like, yeah, you can. And she's like, wait, what? He's like, I don't mind you having lovers. He's like, anytime I've been with a girl, I've always made sure they schedule time with whoever they want to be with. And, you know, as long as you're happy, it's fine. It all kind of works out. But he's like, I have one stipulation, and that is, no matter what you're doing, kissing, having sex, whatever it is, it has to be in front of me. I was like, I'm sure a lot of people will be like, oh, that's very cuckish of you. I'm sure that's the immediate thing. But for him, it's like, he makes the whole point of, I've always been, you know, I've never cared too much when it comes to the whole carrot and stick. I'm perfectly fine with there not being a carrot. I'm perfectly fine getting whacked with the stick, because that's much sweeter. But he's like, that's the exception when it comes to you. Because he's like, yeah, whoever you're with, the fact of the matter is, after you do your business, I will proceed to kill them. And it's like, I'll do that to anyway. Because for him, it's like, he wants things to kind of be balanced. And the only balanced way to is like, hey, you guys do stuff in front of me, and then I proceed to kill the guy. That's the only way things are going to be balanced and fair. And that makes me think, like, is that why he was kind of irritated with the whole Shoma of it all? Because all that was happening behind his back. Like, her hanging out with him last episode, all behind Kirishima's back. Me going off to see him off at the train station, all behind his back. So I think maybe he gets a little like, which is so interesting too, considering like you have your, I mean, he kind of knew what the deal was, because he was already like, once again, going down on his lady friend last episode, despite everything, and kind of like, you know, talking about Yoshino to her and stuff. So it is kind of that, but he is trying to say like, hey, it could be a two-way street, but just know like it needs to be in front of me, and once it is, I'm gonna kill the guy. And she's like, oh, what if it's Shoma? It's like, oh yeah, I'd kill him too. But it's like, he kind of, once again, emotions seem to not really be something he's truly acquainted with. So he's like, I've never actually really gotten mad before, so I'm never actually not quite sure of what this feeling is. Because he's like, yeah, I'm not mad at you. She's like, are you mad at Shoma? Because it's like, because the entire time she thought he was mad at her, it's like, you're trying to kill me again. He's like, no, I still love you. And, you know, he's even saying like, yo, what could I do? I will be whatever normal guy you wanted me to be. I will fit that to a T. Just tell me what guy you want, and I'll be that guy for you if it means you'll kind of love me back. But for her, it's like, she kind of doesn't believe the act, and she's like, if you're going to go through all that trouble, Because the fact of the matter is, she's like, I'm going to like, my plan was to stay with you for a year and then dump you and ditch you and go back to Osaka. But for her, it's like, I'll actually stay this through. But it's like, even if you act like a normal guy, I won't date you to the point, and I won't love you. And she's like, to that point, you might as well be as crazy as possible. And for him, it's like, I knew I loved you, but I figured I would eventually get bored of you. But he's like, you being who you are, Yoshino, as long as you never change, I'll never have to worry about getting bored of you. And she's just like, you are just fucking crazy. But there's also the situation where the next day she has a fever. Apparently she gets sick every summer, which I can kind of understand that. It doesn't happen every year, but I have a tendency, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do, but I feel like there's a couple years back to back where I would constantly get sick during December. I'm sure probably statistically that's probably like where flu season really kicks up maybe, and that's why most people get sick. But I had like an upper respiratory infection one year. I had strep throat another year, and sometimes I was having just a fever. It's just like, it was like 2 or 3 years back to back I was getting sick. I don't think it happens as often. I'm trying to think, like, what time frame was it when I got COVID? That might have been around winter time, like 2 or 3 years ago. Was it maybe 2021 when I got COVID? I don't remember now. That might have been around winter time. I think it might have been. That's what I mean. So I kind of get that, but I wonder if there's more to it or not, considering she always gets sick. But maybe that's just how some people's bodies work, you know. But yeah. Kirishima wanted to take care of her to the point, like, he's like, oh, like, I had to run all the way back here. She's like, I literally texted you that message like 3 minutes ago. You ran like a kilometer back to get here. He's like, yeah, I want to take care of you. She's like, no, go to school. Leave me alone. Like, I just don't want to be around you. Just go. He's like, fine, I'll go to school, but then I'll text you every hour, and then I'll be back. And he's texting her to see if she's okay, which is very, very heartwarming. But then, like, work comes in his way because one of the Yakuza families, someone from that family stole or was having a fling with the boss's girl, and now they're on the run. Now, I wonder, is that a storyline that will evolve and turn into anything else? Will we continue that storyline, or was it just kind of a small, like, C-plot beat in this episode? Because it's all about Kirishima getting back to look after Yoshino, because he couldn't get in contact with her for a good chunk of the day. Like, she wasn't answering her phone and stuff like that. Because for him, it's like the guy who runs the brothel is the one that contacted him. But it's like he ends up calling, what's it, Ichibana or Tachibana, it might have been. And it's like, yo, can you have like someone come over and we can kind of take advantage of the situation and kind of get some protection money from this whole operation by having someone kind of oversee it. And the guy was kind of like, whoa, this isn't what was supposed to happen. And he's like, oh, you thought you would be able to solve Yakuza business by bringing me in, someone who is not tied to the Yakuza. But he's like, no, you can't try and find someone out. A Yakuza situation has to be solved by someone from the Yakuza, and you thought you could get around this because he knew if he got the Yakuza involved, it wouldn't turn into what it is now, where he'd have to be forced to be under their protection type of situation. So, thought that was fascinating. But also, Kirishima learned from him, like, where he could take Yoshino to a hospital, because she doesn't do well with hospitals. You know, understandable. Hospitals, maybe there's trauma related to that, maybe related to her parents, or maybe it's just the notion of hospitals just reek of death type of thing. I don't know. Maybe there's something deeper to it, but she does not like hospitals. But he's like, didn't you get your kidney removed? And I was like, right, did you not have that done in a hospital? But she's like, no, my hatred for you ran so deep that I was able to push past my fear of hospitals to get that done. So I was like, that's dedication. But yeah, by the time he comes home, the door's locked, so he has to pick the lock. But he comes in, and Yoshino's like really bad off. Like, her fever's running pretty high. So, was it, I forgot who. I think it's the guy that kind of has dreads. He ends up picking them up, and they go to the hospital. And it turns out, oh, everything's okay. But the episode ended with Kirishima talking to Yoshino's grandfather and letting him know, like, hey, she's okay, her fever, bro. He's like, oh yeah, my granddaughter, she's not causing you too much trouble. He's like, nah, she's calling me a stalker and stuff like that. He's like, oh yeah, that's my granddaughter. He's like, oh, that granddaughter of mine, she's very stubborn. A lot of her personality she kind of gets from me, and just kind of laughing it up. And but Kiroshima's like, right, I'll stick this out because I will continue to take care of it because that's the deal I made. And it's like, I don't know if that's him letting her grandfather know, like, I know what I signed up for and I know what you're doing, but I want you to know I know that I know you know, type of thing. I don't know. But I do think it's interesting because the episode ends off with Shoma nearby looking. So I don't know if he like fully overheard that conversation, or is it a thing of because he doesn't know what Yoshino's grandfather is up to. It's like, what are you planning and why him? There's probably plenty of other people, but why him specifically? Especially someone who is technically not part of the Yakuza. Because that was also a thing that Kirishima brought up, was specifically about Shono's circumstances, about Yoshino dating him. Because she's like, right, he's like family. He's like, no, but it seems like you guys are more. She's like, well, no one around me, with the exception of my grandfather, no one in that family is blood related to me. But I think that's also what irks his nerves, because it's like, right, it seems like there's something there. And that's why I'm like, I don't know if this is going to become a love triangle thing, or whether he's just a very protective brother. I don't know if he like doesn't see Yoshino in that way, and she definitely doesn't see him in that way, but maybe that'll change. I don't know. Like I said, it's just, I mean, they do focus on that, and especially the entire ending kind of focuses around both of these guys being in her life. So I don't know how that's going to play out story beat wise. Like I said, whether it's going to turn into a love triangle or not. But I'm interested to see where all this takes us. Like I said, that plot point about the guy running off with the boss's girl, like, will that be a plot point that continues, or is that just, like I said, was that just kind of like, I said C, but maybe it's like a D plot point in the episode and it's not going to go further beyond it? I'm going back to add this conversation in here because I completely forgot about this element of the story from when Shoma was at the train station with Yoshino, or rather Yoshino was at the train station with Shoma, that it was a whole conversation about how she's willing to put her life on the line for her pride, and for her it's kind of like, if I don't have my pride and stuff like that, I'm better off dead, you know. And for Shoma, it's like that's too hardcore for him. It's like there's that's not something he put his life on the line for. And she's like, what would you put your life on the line for? And he points to her, and she's almost taken back because it's like, oh, me. But he's like, no, you have a bug on you, but it turned out to be a piece of crumb. But I'm like, I think there was still, even though it was played for jokes, I do believe there was sincerity in that. And I think that's kind of an important thing. Like I brought up earlier, I do believe that probably the intimacy there, especially the hug they have just when he leaves, like I said, I think plays into that jealousy and issues that Kirishima has when it comes to Shoma kind of taking away the woman he loves. Because I think, once again, whether or not he knows what love really is, this is probably the first time he's ever felt this way towards someone, and to have someone kind of steal that from you, like, it's all probably kind of new to him. So just wanted to add that in there, just because, like I said, I was going through the episode, getting the thumbnails for the recording. So we'll have to wait to see where everything ends up taking us going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.